Today we're going to go through the details of the upcoming Present Mic event. We got the full details of the characters, even though we went through some of it. We got the full like percentages and everything like that. And then also we got to go through the details of the new memories, which we have 3 to go through. And then we'll discuss whether or not it is worth it to pull on this next banner. So first of all, let's jump straight into the main character, which is Present Mic. This is the first UR Present Mic in the game. And for his plus ultra, it does 700% damage to the enemy here. For the AoE, it's 225% damage, and he lowers defense of all the opponents by 15% for 3 turns, which is on par with the purple Bakugo. Now, this does have a 6-turn skill cooldown, which is very, very high, especially since this is his only attacking action skill, making him, in terms of a DPS, not so good. So for the second action skill, it's a buff to all allies for the plus ultra gauge by 20%. This is the most I've seen, better than Nejiri, so that's a bonus. It also decreases speed of all opponents by 30% for 3 turns, which is a very big decrease in speed, and makes character static for 3 turns, which we already know. This one's a 5-turn cooldown. For the auto skill, it increases plus ultra gauge of mind type characters by 25%, and then increases own plus ultra move damage by 5% per turn up to 30%, making it more of a plus ultra dealing damage unit, which is very apparent with a static all over his kit, and a plus ultra gauge as well. And for his second auto skill, it is a 20% damage reduction on the plus ultra skill impact for the enemies one time. For his stats, it is 514 speed, 7472 power, and 30,000 HP. These are pretty much average stats. Nothing too good in the speed. The power seems very average, and the HP seems very low/average for a UR. So nothing spectacular, just like first looking at it. So now that you know all the details, let me just explain to you the scenarios of where you would use him. So in VE Tower, what are his benefits, right? He's got double technical hits. He lowers speed and lowers defense, which is great. But he has no status inflictions. Bullseye is not a status infliction. Bullseye is you cannot miss. Somebody explained because it's through the plus ultra, it might bypass the dodging mechanic, as well as bypass like shield maybe, or camouflage and everything like that, because plus ultras tend to not miss anyway. So because the plus ultra does have this ability, it means that there is a potential that it can go through the dodging ability and shield abilities, but we do have to do some testing on that since we don't have much further details through the data mines. And then the bonus on VE Tower is that he has plus ultra gauge gain, meaning that you could probably plus ultra, depending on your build, maybe like 3 times within the 6 turn or 7 turns, depending on what kind of team you're trying to build. So that's pretty cool. He could carry you in the plus ultra amounts for VE Tower. The negatives on VE Tower is that, of course, he has high cooldowns. 6 turns means you're probably only using the 1 technical hit once, ever, until it expires. Or you could, unless it's a 7-turn battle, you can have it on the 7th turn. But that is a very long cooldown, which means you do have to have a support that can lower cooldown, or some sort of memory or something like that, which is kind of a hassle since he doesn't have crit rate built in. But it is an AoE skill, so it does count more critical hits if like multiple enemies take a critical from his AoE. And like I said before, no status infliction. So that's a bit of an issue. Now, when it comes to PvP, I think there is a room for him, just like the Sun Eater, but I don't see him becoming meta at all. Unfortunately, his speed stat is very low. It doesn't, you know, keep up with the current best PvP units. He is a nice counter to some units such as the Bakugo, but remember, Bakugo does type effective damage to himself here, to Present Mic as well, so it's a two-way street. 2, when you're using as a defending unit, he will use the AoE first, which can be good sometimes, but sometimes you do want to use the action skill too, which the CPU will probably only use the AoE first, because you do want to get that lowering speed. So you can at least go first on the 2nd turn, because for the most part, with this kind of speed build, unless you are a super whale and you can farm like EX skills on this guy and get the perfect one to like, and get DX skills that have like DX memories that will have like increased speed by heaps and everything like that, you are most likely as an average player going to be slower than your opponent using Present Mic, unless you are versing like a knowingly weak team, which is very slow. So there are some issues with using him. And in terms of as a defender, using this skill last is pretty tough. But I can see it working out being used last as well, because this plus Ultra Gauge by 20%, it means that there is a potential to use Nejiri with him. But if you use him as an attack and you use this skill first, there is no reason to bring Nejiri. I think he's trying to replace Nejiri with this plus Ultra Gauge allies increased by 20%. But there are obviously backlash for that, obviously not having the regen for your team and healing capability. Now, what teams does he fit on? It's definitely that Mind type team. For example, Mirio, Sanita, Aizawa, they all get that skill impact increase for their plus Ultra move, especially for the plus Ultra allies increased by 20%. I can see it. There is, you can do a turn 3 plus Ultra pretty easily. And so that is a team that you can use. But outside of that, it's probably not ideal to be bringing him on a different PvP team, unfortunately. So I think this is not the greatest UR character. I'd rank this just off, you know, looking at this. VE Tower probably a B. Or, yeah, probably a B. And then PvP probably a C or B. Just because the decreased speed can be pretty helpful. So, that is the present mic here. Next up, we have Kaminari here, the SR summonable unit that will be coming out corresponding the present mic. So he has a 30% paralyzing effect and a 30% critical rate increase with his plus ultra with 500% damage. His skill is to 50% damage, increases character skill impact by 20% for 3 turns, and when using a successful chain, 30% of paralyzing the opponent for 1 turn with a 4-turn cooldown. That's not bad. Action skill 2 decreases opponent's speed by 30% and defense by 15% for 3 turns. That's a pretty decent action skill. It's a technical hit and allows everybody to do extra damage with a 4-turn cooldown as well. Now, for the auto skill, increases character's chance by 60% of paralyzing the opponent every turn up to 5 times. Also increases character's critical skill impact by 20% for 3 turns. As you can see from his kit, he does really want to crit to do as much damage as possible. And then his last auto skill is increases character's skill impact by 30%. Also increases critical rate of this character by 20% when HP is 50% or below. So we're not going to talk about him performing in PvP because that doesn't exist for SR characters, unfortunately. But for VE Tower, he has 2 status inflictions. He has double technical hits, both with 4-turn cooldowns. Those are really, really good. And of course, the critical rate increase for his plus ultra means that in the later half of VE Tower, he's going to be really, really good in terms of critical hitting. And of course, the increasing chance of paralyzing makes it so that it is more reliable every turn to paralyze the said opponent. Now, the problem with him is that there is no plus ultra gauge gain. I think that's the only thing he is lacking. And that means you do need to find a potential unit that can increase plus ultra gauge for all allies. Example, present mic, technically. And yeah, so I would say he is almost a perfect VE Tower unit other than the plus ultra gauge increase. So very, very good unit indeed. And it doesn't have any self-inflicting effects like the other DST Kaminari as well. Now, I do want to speak on this increased chance of 6% of paralyzing. Through data mine, we were able to determine the new icon that was released in the data download for the anniversary. And it ended up being that, let me show you. It ended up being that it is a status infliction rate up for confusion, burn, bleed, paralysis, blind, bind, freeze, charm, blind, fear, and frostbite. And essentially what this icon is going to be used is to indicate what the actual effect here is on the character, okay? This is not like a new kind of effect. It's more of just like an identification kind of deal to show you that they are increasing their chance of doing said effect. There are a few characters that can do this, such as like the Shigaraki with Fear, I think, where he versus STR. I think Aizawa, we're versing STR as well. There's a few characters, so it will just be a simpler way to identify this instead of just looking at like the details and everything all the time. The symbol was used where in Present Mike's thing, but me and Hydros just discussed it, and I think that is the sure thing. I don't think, because Bullseye does not have an icon, I think we can conclude that it's not for Bullseye or anything like that in Present Mike's kits, unfortunately. I also was hoping that it would be something else as well, but looking at the previous, like, status afflictions and buffs and something like that, that purple icon has been used before, so we should have known to begin with. But that's pretty much it for that purple icon. If anybody was confused as it was on the Present Mike's kit before, but that was a mistake. It just happens that the data download was kind of wrong, I guess. So I doubt it will have anything to do with Present Mike, because Present Mike doesn't have any, you know, of the status inflictions, unfortunately. And there was no room in his kit, like, wording to explain the specific icon on his kit, because usually it would show you, like, if there was a restriction on turn or something like that. Like, the Kaminari has it for up to 5 times every turn. Anyway, let's get into the memories now. We have the UR memory, which is a critical rate memory for UA high school teachers. And it also increases critical skill impact by 10% after receiving a critical attack up to 5 turns. Multiple hit attacks equals 1 attack. So it is pretty much like the free-to-play memory, which, I mean, is probably better anyway, because that one's more diverse than this one's for UA high school teachers. That is just like Aizawa All Might and Present Mike. So there's not really, because there's no Midnight, unfortunately, in the game yet. There's not really a reason to be pulling this memory if you can just buy the one from the USJ store. So I would say this one's a skip. It probably will have better stats, and it does pretty much have the same crit rate as well, even fully DX'd. So there's nothing too crazy different. In VE Tower, you don't even care about these stats anyway. You just care about what the effect of crit rate and how much it gives. So knowing that it's only for UA high school teachers, it's kind of tough to justify, you know, trying to chase this one memory. Unless you love this art so much, you love it so much that it lures you into pulling it. Alright, so let's go through the SR memories. We got a summonable one, which is this one, and then the free-to-play farmable one. First of all, the summonable one, fully DX, is a 60% HP regen and cancels 4 status ailments of the character when HP is 30% or below. It's not so good because you have to drop underneath 30% or below. There's no point in using it on a persistence character because they will die anyway in 3 turns, and you want them to be as low as HP as possible. It'd work on a Last Stand character, but it's very easy to counter a Last Stand character technically unless they have persistent built in. And I would have liked if this effect was like at the start of the wave over the 30% restriction, because this would help like PvP teams, I guess, to just increase the tank's health or something like that, since they'll be taking a lot of the damage. So I don't see this being useful at all, other than if you're a beginner and this is your first memory and you just need it to clear VE Tower or beat a story event and get it 3-starred. That's pretty much it. Nothing too special. And then the farmable memory with the young Present Mike and Aizawa, we have makes a character static for 3 turns and decreases the opponent's speed by 10%, 25% when max DX, and is static for 4 turns. This could be okay for VE Tower, because if you can put this on a character where they have critical rate built in and it's decent enough, and you just need the plus ultra amounts, this could be technically a good memory to use. If you don't have like a supporting member that can increase plus ultra gauge. So there is some usage to this, but outside of VE Tower, again, it's not anything too crazy. It just helps you spam plus ultras. And because it's low statted, because it's an SR, you probably won't use this in PvP either. So those are the new characters. My final verdict is just skip. I don't think Present Mike, you know, changes the whole scenario of PvP at all. He's not even groundbreaking in VE Tower as well. The only reason you're summoning for Present Mike is either you're a big fan of Present Mike, which is a possibility, or you are the biggest whale possible, and you know you can get and farm his EX skills to give him like max speed and plus ultra gauge rate increase or something like that, where you can utilize him in PvP and make him hella tanky so that he can survive the first turn, all that snaz. So it's very specific. It's very hard to build up Present Mike to be optimal. But that is going to be it. I'd say save for the next unit. Hopefully it is better. That's going to wrap it up for today's video. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. If you did, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel with the notification bell on so you don't miss out on the daily content. Check out my social medias linked in the description. With that said, I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay healthy, stay safe, stay fizzy. Peace out.